12 years ago, one of the world's most popular film franchises, Harry Potter, came to an end. Since then, hundreds, if not thousands, of theories have surfaced across the internet. However, I am surprised that no one has noticed the most significant mistake. It concerns the creation of Horcruxes by the Dark Lord. His secret to immortality lay in the fact that Voldemort split his soul into pieces and placed fragments of it into objects. And we know for certain that there should be 7 soul fragments. When Dumbledore first met Tom Riddle, we can see 7 stones lying on the windowsill, which is a direct reference to the number of dark objects. In the dialogue between Tom and Professor Horace, we also hear that the young wizard knows exactly how many Horcruxes he will create.
Can you only split the soul once? For instance, 6 and 7?
7.
Everything tells us that Tom Riddle carried out his plan and successfully created 7 Horcruxes. We know them well: the diary, the cup, the ring, the locket, the diadem, and the snake. But where is the 7th object? Later we are told that the 7th Horcrux is Harry Potter. However, both the books and the films clearly state that the Dark Lord never intended such an outcome. When he came to the Potter's house, he killed James and Lily. But the killing curse aimed at Harry rebounded onto Voldemort, causing the Dark Lord's physical form to vanish. A fragment of his soul, searching for a new vessel, latched onto Harry Potter. Voldemort never truly understood his connection with Harry and did not realize that the boy was harboring a piece of his soul. Before that tragic night, the serpent-tongued wizard had planned for 7 Horcruxes, and he definitely created them. Based on this information, Harry is actually the 8th Horcrux. And here, we were deceived as well, since dark magic always leaves a mark and creates the strongest protective enchantments. This is why a tainted object containing a fragment of a soul is extremely difficult to destroy. We know of only 3 methods: basilisk venom, Fiendfyre, and the Sword of Gryffindor. The latter weapon absorbed basilisk venom, making it effective against Horcruxes. This is why spells bounced off Nagini. No one managed to harm her in any way, yet all forms of magic worked on Harry. But how? Shouldn't he have had protection? This completely contradicts the established understanding of Horcruxes. Even the Dark Lord's death suggests that he survived once again, because there was still an 8th object holding a piece of his soul. Originally, a scene was filmed where the Dark Lord's lifeless body lay on the battlefield. However, Rowling later requested that the scene be reshot, showing Voldemort disintegrating into tiny fragments, just as he did when he first encountered baby Harry. When his own Avada Kedavra rebounded on him, his body was never found. Instead, the Dark Lord crumbled like sand. We know that J.K. Rowling was involved in the filming process. She provided recommendations and advice, but over the course of 7 films, she never requested a complete reshoot of any material. This is very strange, almost as if the author wanted to correct something. If viewers had seen the lifeless body of the serpent-tongued wizard, there would be no questions about his death. And this is the main deception of the entire story. Voldemort is alive because one more Horcrux remains. The Mirror of Erised. Yes, the very same mirror that was supposed to safeguard the Philosopher's Stone, rather than handing it over to a first-year student at the first request. But this relic is actually the true 7th Horcrux, and I will prove it to you. To ensure we don't miss any critical details, I suggest we closely examine dark magic in the creation of Horcruxes. This will allow us to understand what truly happened. We need to delve into history. The first Horcrux was created by Herpo the Foul, an ancient Greek dark wizard who practiced black magic. He was the one who created the basilisk by having a toad incubate a chicken egg. He was also the first to contemplate eternal life and began experimenting with sinister magic. Herpo did not initially know how to properly conduct the ritual, but after numerous attempts, he managed to place part of his soul into a snake. However, the ritual did not work correctly, as a fragment of the soul expelled into the snake was instead absorbed by Herpo himself. This is why the Dark Wizard became the first Parselmouth and could speak the language of serpents fluently. Herpo faced many challenges, not only in creating dark matter but also in trying to destroy it. When he attempted to eliminate his first Horcrux, he realized that magic alone could not accomplish this. After successfully breeding the first basilisk, Herpo noticed that the creature's venom could destroy anything. He tested it on the Horcrux, and it instantly melted from just a single drop of the venom. Moreover, it did not matter whether the Horcrux was an object or a living creature, such as a snake. Later, Herpo documented all his experiments in a diary, and his notes became part of the book Secrets of the Darkest Art. Herpo specified that in order for the ritual to be performed correctly and without consequences, it was best to use inanimate objects. In the Slytherin library, a young Tom Riddle found this book and learned about Herpo the Foul's experiments for the first time. Most wizards were terrified by the very idea of such a ritual, but Tom did not fear death. Even then, he was already determined to rule forever.
But only I can live forever.
In reality, we know almost nothing about the exact process of creating Horcruxes. All we do know is that in order to split the soul, one must commit murder. J.K. Rowling has repeatedly stated that this is simply the easiest way, but not the only one. At the age of 16, Tom Riddle sought more information, which is why he approached Horace. Out of fear and lack of understanding, the professor revealed just enough details to satisfy Tom's curiosity. It was at this moment that we learned the Dark Lord intended to divide his soul into 7 parts. Why exactly 7? The reason is that this number is the most powerful in magic, and Voldemort is a highly superstitious person. He believes in questionable prophecies and the power of historical artifacts. This is why serpent-tongued wizards choose significant objects to hold their souls. However, the first and most powerful Horcrux is nothing more than an ordinary diary. You have probably noticed that all dark objects have different levels of power. Tom Riddle's diary was able to control Ginny Weasley, open the Chamber of Secrets, and nearly kill Harry Potter. Within just a few days of its presence at Hogwarts, the Horcrux almost wiped out all Muggle-born students. Before this, the diary had been kept by the Malfoy family, but on orders from Voldemort, Lucius planted it on a poor first-year girl. Meanwhile, Rowena Ravenclaw's diadem remained hidden in the school for years, without showing any signs of activity. This is because the tiara contained only a tiny fragment of Voldemort's soul. Its power was weak, but why? Most people assume that during the ritual, the soul is split into 2 equal halves. If this were true, the first Horcrux, the diary, would have absorbed half of Voldemort's soul. By the time he created the final Horcrux, the Dark Lord would have spent less than 1% of his soul. But this is not the case. Neither the books nor the films mention splitting the soul into equal halves, only that the wizard severs a portion of it, which he can control depending on his power. At 16, Tom Riddle created his first Horcrux by killing Moaning Myrtle. Since he had no prior experience, he unknowingly placed too much of his soul into the diary, out of sheer inexperience. However, when creating the ring, the cup, and the diadem, the Dark Lord had learned to regulate the process and carefully severed smaller fragments of his soul. This is why the diary became the most powerful magical object among all his Horcruxes. The second Horcrux created, the ring belonging to the Gaunt family, also contained a significant portion of the Dark Lord's soul. The ring was powerful enough to deceive one of the greatest wizards, Albus Dumbledore. When he found the Horcrux, he noticed that it contained the Resurrection Stone. Albus succumbed to temptation and showed a moment of weakness, as he longed to bring back his deceased sister, Ariana. But the moment he touched it, he was cursed. This curse slowly drained Albus's life, and not even Severus Snape, despite his expertise in healing magic, could counteract such powerful dark magic. Snape, considered one of the finest potion makers, prepared a special elixir for Dumbledore, but it could only slow down the process. It could not save him. The other Horcruxes were not as overwhelmingly strong as the diary or the ring, but they all possessed an instinct for self-preservation, and most importantly, some of the most potent protective enchantments, except for Harry Potter. Now let's examine all the Horcruxes and the years they were created. The first was Tom Riddle's diary, created in 1943. In the same year, the Gaunt ring was tainted with dark magic. After visiting his family, Morfin Gaunt guarded the ring as a family heirloom, but Tom believed it rightfully belonged to him. He killed his relatives, including his own mother, to erase all traces of his Muggle heritage, since his biological father was an ordinary man. On that day, Tom embedded a fragment of his soul into the ring. Around 1946, he found Salazar Slytherin's locket and Helga Hufflepuff's cup, murdering the artifact collector Hepzibah Smith in the process. In 1956, Tom traveled to Albania. Even during his school years, he had learned from Helena Ravenclaw where the lost Ravenclaw diadem was hidden. He successfully located it and turned it into a Horcrux. Later, he returned to Hogwarts, seeking the position of defense against the dark arts professor. Around this time, he secretly hid the diadem within the school. During his conversation with Tom, Albus Dumbledore only noticed how pale his face had become. But at that point, the Dark Lord still looked relatively human. His appearance changed dramatically after he placed a fragment of his soul into Nagini. To accomplish this, he had to extract a part of the snake's soul and replace it with his own. But this ritual did not go without consequences. Tom Riddle's appearance changed drastically. His eyes took on a snake-like quality, and his nose seemed to merge with his face. However, these transformations did not affect his overall health. The books do not explicitly state when or how Voldemort first encountered Nagini, but if we try to construct a logical timeline, it likely happened in the spring of 1994. Even in his near-death state, the Dark Lord managed to sever another fragment of his soul and place it into Nagini. By this point, the serpent-tongued wizard had likely become the most skilled practitioner of dark magic, surpassing even Herpo the Foul in his mastery of dark matter. During this time, he could very well have created an 8th Horcrux, an object that has remained in the shadows all this time. It still holds a piece of the Dark Lord's soul. Harry Potter, on the other hand, is a different case entirely. He was an unintentionally created Horcrux. But how did this happen? In 1981, the most significant event in the wizarding world took place. Voldemort arrived at the Potter's home to kill the boy who, according to prophecy, would challenge the Dark Lord and bring an end to his reign. But the killing curse, Avada Kedavra, rebounded off Harry and struck Voldemort instead, destroying his physical form. Dumbledore later explained that because Tom had repeatedly torn apart his soul, the remaining fragment within his body had become unstable. As a result, it latched onto the only living being in the room, Harry Potter. Of course, this was merely Dumbledore's theory, but perhaps there was some truth to it. The most intriguing part is that no actual Horcrux ritual was performed. Voldemort had fulfilled the first requirement, murdering Harry's parents. But how did he manage to create a Horcrux without completing the ritual? Since we do not fully understand how dark magic works in this regard, we cannot say with certainty that Harry Potter was a true Horcrux. Harry truly became a vessel for Voldemort's soul, but nothing more. Throughout the films, we see that various spells affect him. However, this aspect was not depicted well on screen. In the books, things are different. Here's the first example. It occurred when Draco Malfoy managed to repair the Vanishing Cabinet, allowing Death Eaters to infiltrate Hogwarts to kill Dumbledore. Before his death, Albus cast Petrificus Totalis on Harry. This was done to protect him and prevent him from interfering. Harry was forced to watch Dumbledore's murder, completely immobilized. However, when Snape killed the headmaster, the spell broke, and Harry quickly realized that the old man was dead. But why is this not shown in the films? There are numerous similar changes, as if Rowling was trying to fix her own mistakes. Nagini's invulnerability, on the other hand, was portrayed in full detail. No spells affected the snake. Only the Sword of Gryffindor was able to kill her. This is very strange. But the strangest thing of all is Voldemort's death. In the books, things unfold quite differently. During the final duel between Harry Potter and Voldemort, the Dark Lord's Avada Kedavra curse rebounds onto him. This happens because Voldemort fails to realize that the Elder Wand he wields actually belongs to Harry. The wand refuses to kill its true master. After Voldemort's death, his body remains in the Great Hall of Hogwarts. Unlike the fearsome magical figure he was in life, his corpse looks ordinary, human. Initially, this was how the scene was filmed, but later, the author decided to change everything, linking Nagini's death with the Dark Lord's demise. This alteration gives the impression that he died immediately after Neville destroyed the final Horcrux. But here's the problem: we never actually see his death. Voldemort's body crumbles into dust once again, just as it did the first time he attempted to kill Harry Potter. This is Rowling's direct clue. It suggests that Tom Riddle is still alive and that one more Horcrux remains hidden somewhere. And Harry Potter was never truly a part of dark magic. In one interview, fans attempted to uncover the truth. They asked Rowling to briefly describe the ritual for creating a Horcrux. Many assumed that it required a direct connection to the murdered victim. The theory suggested that the wizard must consume part of the victim's flesh before splitting their soul and embedding it into an object. Rowling only responded by saying that the ritual probably does not involve cannibalism. Perhaps drinking a quarter pint of blood would suffice, and that was all she revealed. But it is highly unlikely that Voldemort drank Lily's blood. Thus, Harry was merely a vessel, one that held a large fragment of Voldemort's soul. And the true seventh Horcrux might very well be the Mirror of Erised. Yes, the same mirror in which Albus hid the Philosopher's Stone. Have you ever found it odd that out of thousands of students, only Harry managed to find the mirror within the castle? This artifact is tainted, and Harry felt it because a piece of Voldemort's soul lived inside it. They were drawn to each other. The second question is this: why did the mirror give Harry the Philosopher's Stone? Wouldn't it have been far more logical to keep it hidden within itself? The answer is that the mirror recognized Voldemort's soul fragment inside Harry and submitted to him, because the artifact itself also contained a piece of the Dark Lord's soul. Quirrell, on the other hand, was merely a vessel, carrying a parasite, a very weak fragment of Voldemort. He was so feeble that he could barely speak. The mirror even deceived Dumbledore. It allowed him to believe it was a secure hiding place, creating the illusion of safety. This is too perfect of an object to be a Horcrux. First, it carries history and mystery, just like every artifact Tom Riddle chose. Second, it was hidden in Hogwarts, one of the safest places in the wizarding world. We know that Voldemort was meticulous in selecting locations for his Horcruxes. Furthermore, in additional materials by J.K. Rowling, it is mentioned that young Tom Riddle spent hours in front of the mirror, even speaking to it while at Hogwarts. I believe that after corrupting the diary and the ring, Voldemort tainted the mirror, embedding a fragment of his soul inside it, just as he did with Ravenclaw's diadem. This theory could explain all the inconsistencies between the films and the books. I can't think of a more fitting object for the hidden Horcrux, but perhaps you have ideas. I'll be waiting for them in the comments.